Welcome back to another episode of Stayin 2800. Just you and I tonight, Willie. We're ready to bring this thing home. It's our penultimate peril. And we'll be back. Well, maybe we'll assemble the World Security Council next week for the finale to wrap this up. But we are talking tonight about episode 8 of WandaVision, entitled Previously On. In which the newly revealed Agatha Harkness basically sends Wanda down a memory trip to see how we basically get her entire character backstory leading up to the creation of Westview and the start of WandaVision. So what was your reaction to episode 8?
Episode 8, it did a lot of interesting things in the fact that I think it's probably the best episode of the show, but this is the episode that made that sunk the series. This is the episode that, I think this is the show that they wanted to make. This is not the show that they spent 7 episodes leading up to. It may or may not be the show that they give a finale to, later on in the week. But it did good stuff for character. It did good stuff for Wanda. But it ultimately spelled, I think, disaster for what we were hoping the show would become.
Yeah. And you made a good point before we started that basically it's kind of what the show should have been, honestly.
Yeah.
Instead of wrapping it in a puzzle box format, a la Lost, a la Westworld, a la Once Upon a Time, in which the point is to introduce questions and hopefully have satisfying answers to them, to build a mystery, to have a reveal. I guess this would be the reveal episode where all is revealed, and I feel like if you're a fan, well, right. I mean, the answer to the sitcoms was revealed, but yeah, if you were, or I guess how the Hex was created as well. But if you were a fan like us in the beginning, or at least like I was, that was reading into every little thing as Marvel has taught me to do. Perhaps this is disappointing, but I will say that if you take this at face value as to what it is in the world of the show, I think you're right. I think it probably is one of the better episodes because of the character study. There are some really weird things in this episode that I want to talk about, but yeah, overall, I thought it was effective in doing in characterizing Wanda to a really human, emotional level, which is good.
Yeah, and I think I think that they actually do it. I think they make her the most human Avenger. Within the course of 20 minutes, and they do that with the strongest Avenger, and really all they have to work with is a witch and an android. And somehow you use those to develop, a very, very human, very relatable character.
Yeah. Let's quickly do some of the categories. Did you have a favorite part of the episode?
Yeah, I think it wasn't one specific moment. But Olsen's portrayal of grief, I thought, was very strong in this episode.
She was great. I think this is the best she's been all season.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think she did a phenomenal job. And I think, she made her, Scarlet Witch's grief and pain real. Like I said, in a way that I don't know if any of the other Marvel movies have successfully done.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big win,
Yeah, absolutely. I really do think she crushed it. Bettany has been my MVP for the season, but I think she really kind of flipped, and she probably has my vote now just for this episode alone. So I really appreciated that. I liked, as far as a favorite moment, I know this moment got a lot of shit online.
Oh, it's not the line, is it?
It's not the line, but it's the scene that the line is in.
Okay, that's fair.
So it's one of the it's the second to last flashback in which they're at Avengers Compound, and it's just her and Vision shortly after the events of Age of Ultron, shortly after Pietro's death, and it's Vision like trying to understand how sitcoms work. I didn't mind the line. We can get to the line.
I hated the line.
I honestly wouldn't have bumped on me if it hadn't been so much in the discourse, but I just thought the scene was really nice. I thought it was a very because there was a little bit in Civil War of their relationship blossoming, but we didn't really get to see the moment where the kickoff to that. So I thought that was a really nice flashback.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think I rolled my eyes as soon as that line came out. And the thing for me is even I really liked Wanda's little mini soliloquy right before that with her talking about the waves of grief.
Waves, yeah.
I was like, okay, that's really good. And then he just came in with that, and I was like, oh, really? I was like, and it doesn't. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's been talked about to death, but it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. It like most of the show, if you think about it too much, it all just falls apart.
Yeah, we don't have to get into the line, but I honestly didn't mind it. But I understand why some people thought it was eye rolly.
Yeah, for sure.
Did anything surprise you about this episode?
Yeah, one thing that I thought was really interesting that I'm torn on, but I'm gonna leave it in surprising, is that the show commented on Wanda's accent coming and going.
Yeah.
And this was kind of one of those moments. We've had a few of them this season, and it's tough because on the one hand, I like when shows kind of mention perceived weak points or and maybe try to correct them.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny because they kind of just pointed it out for the sake of pointing it out. They weren't really they didn't bother trying to explain that her accent's been inconsistent. They were just like, oh, ha ha ha, look it, we noticed this thing.
Right.
Noticed too. So but it's still surprising. It's surprising that they even brought it up. But
yeah. No, I like that. Mine was in the first flashback with the missile that comes in and kills the parents, the Stark missile. Excuse me. I was waiting for that as soon as I saw the parents. I'm like, okay, so when is the Stark missile going to come through? Because that was so much part of her backstory in Ultron. But the part that was surprising to me is that there was an implication that Wanda has always been magical.
Yeah.
And that the interaction with the Mind Stone only amplified. Now, my reading of that is I don't think the show gave a definitive answer to that, whether or not that's true, because Wanda says, no, it was just it just didn't go off. And Agatha's like, yeah, but did you do it? Because my thought about it was Agatha is trying to figure out how Wanda did this the whole time. That's the whole point of the episode is Agatha is minding Wanda's memory to figure out how she was so powerful to create the hex. So Agatha's like, oh, so you've always been magical and powerful. And then the Mind Stone just supercharged you. But I'm not sure that the show is really saying that. I'm not sure if the show is deciding one way or the other on that, but that at least surprised me.
That was my read. My read was that it was a little, like you said with Mando, that it was a little canon cleanup. That she was always had some inclination towards magic, and that the Mind Stone just amplified it, which could have. I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up, but that could have, be related to mutants.
Mutants, yeah. Okay, so that's I think you're right. I think if you go canon cleanup, that's your back door. If they had showed Pietro doing something quick, like as a young kid, like if he had just stutter stepped a little bit and you're like, oh shit, maybe the Mind Stone did just enhance them. But I still think it's a good backdoor for them to build in. And I think that was probably purposeful.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Anything that you didn't like about this episode?
Yep. I swear, if they brought Peter Evans in for fake Pietro and do nothing with it, like that, I almost like that almost pulled me out of the whole show. I was almost like, I'm out. Like I cannot think of a time, not even just in Marvel, in pop culture, where a company has miscalculated that badly. What they thought would be a goofy little Easter egg into what became everyone expecting the show to be about the X-Men.
Yes. And yeah, it's really rough. It's really rough that she calls him Pietro, as in fake Pietro, and says that she was his voice and eyes, or his eyes and ears, or like she was controlling him.
Yeah.
She doesn't specifically say, I brought him here. She says that your brother's body was on another continent and full of holes. So she did what she had to do.
Yeah.
So I really think it is a massive troll by Marvel. Like, I really think it was for the fans only to read into it, to play, to like have something to talk about for a week. And I really think that sucks because, again, this has been my thing, is I really think that that's it's cashing in on the fans' goodwill and being manipulative of that.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this last week, but yeah, I mean, I think it's cruel. Because they knew what people were going to expect. There's no way they were like, oh, well, people will do this and just think it's cute, and then it won't matter after that. Like, no, that was no way.
Yeah.
And especially with, I don't think we get another big surprise. I don't think we have any big surprises left. I don't, no. And the characters, the actors and actresses. I mean, anytime they give statements out while the show's airing, it was all planned. And so they've been hyping, up on press and everything. This shocking reveal, and then, I mean, they're still playing it up after Pietro, but it was definitely Pietro.
Yeah, 100%.
This was all a very specific play. And I think if you look, I don't know at what point, but I know the first few episodes of Wanda didn't do too well. It took it like 3 or 4, I think, to really catch on. And I think it was Pietro when it really caught in the cultural zeitgeist. And it's gonna mean nothing.
It's gonna end up meaning nothing. Really unfortunate, but I guess we'll see. But I think you're right. I think that was their biggest card to play, and they've been trying to say like, yeah, like, don't worry, like, keep watching till the end. But the article that you shared with me today, where the showrunner says people might be disappointed, I think you're right. I think we've seen all the big surprises.
Yeah.
Part of the episode I didn't like. We'll get to my WTF moments. As far as like, I don't like to use the word plot holes, but plot holes. Yep. But the part I just didn't like about the episode was the Agatha opening. I'm like, I don't understand why that was even there to show, like, because the next scene she like explains basically what she is anyways, and that really didn't have any implication on the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And it just made me frustrated because I had been really dreading the fact that she was the big bad. Because it was so, and again, I saw this in the discourse as well. It's like, WandaVision doesn't need a bigger bad. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you need a Magneto, you need a whatever behind Agatha. I'm saying that it wasn't hidden well. It wasn't done well. Again, the problem with creating a puzzle box show is that you're setting up mysteries, and if your mysteries are bad, then that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So if Catherine Hahn had been playing a character named Betty instead of Agnes the whole time, then I truly think it would have been better, because then maybe we wouldn't have immediately jumped to Agnes is Agatha Hart. Like, I really think that was another big miss And I did not like that scene because I didn't think it served the story at all. And it was just like another doubling down on I think a stupid story decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we can talk more about this as we open the episode up. But you know, I think that there is a really good Scarlet Witch movie hidden in these 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's about an hour and 20 minutes long. I mean, maybe not. Maybe there's a good 40-minute movie here, a mini movie. And they didn't need everything that they did. And I don't like. I completely agree. You know, we talked about this last week. If you wanted to do a show that was just about Wanda's grief, you could have done that. And I think this episode shows they could have done that really, really well.
Yeah.
But don't surround it with 7 episodes of a puzzle box show and then get mad at us when we've been trying to figure out a puzzle, and at the end the puzzle is the grief we grew up with along the way. Like, come on. Like,
Disney's gonna Disney.
Yeah.
This is their go-to move now. It's really frustrating. Palpatine all along. But let's.
Yeah, they're gonna Skywalker this up.
They're gonna Skywalker it up. Let's go through the episode with our in and outs. I have 13 for you, and I will do my WTFs in the middle of them. Okay. First, the Agatha backstory. I'm out on this, as I already said.
I'm gonna say I'm in just to be interesting.
Okay.
I was torn on it, but I thought it's tonally. I'm not sure if it fit in the Marvel universe, and that's part of why I like it, and part of so. Yeah. They tried something different. I'll give it to them. Yeah.
Okay, fake Pietro. I'm out.
I'm so out. Like.
Yeah. Agnes jealous of Wanda's hacks and wanting to know how she did it. I liked this.
Yes, I like it. I like it as well.
I think it's a fair reason for Agnes to be there and to introduce her. Be like, oh shit, a super magic user. When I've been around, I guess if that's your story reason for having the beginning is I've been around forever and I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm not sure if it explains what the hell Agatha's been doing this whole show as neatly as they seem to think it does.
They thought their one line was good enough, and I don't think it was.
No, agreed. Yeah.
Okay, the first flashback to Wanda's parents and the Stark missile. Also, her father is not Magneto. Which is interesting. Now, they've mentioned her father's name a couple of times, but I thought Marvel was really giving themselves a back door to be like, oh, Wanda's father, Oleg Maximov,
AKA.
also known as Eric Lyncher, whatever it is. But they show him, and I guess...
Is that her real father? Maybe.
Yeah, sure, right. But...
no, I know.
And then also the TV shows. I think this is something we all call. I think you pointed this out in I think the first episode that the sitcom thing was going to be a way that Wanda interacted with America in Sokovia and part of her childhood.
Yeah, I think people pointed that out, and I grabbed onto the idea pretty early. I mean, I actually don't. I don't like that idea. I like that there was a reason for why she was dealing with her grief through TV.
Yeah.
I like that they gave it a reason. I don't think the answer works nearly as well as they thought it would. Why was she jumping decades? Why was she pretending, or why was she broadcasting it for people to see? Like, why was she aware that why was she pretending to be on a TV show that jumped decades? Like, it doesn't, like, I get what they were trying to do. I think they did this whole series backwards. They had a cool concept.
Yep.
And then try to come up with a rationale for it.
Yes.
the other thing that I'm surprised, I thought I was going to see this a lot in the discourse, and I really didn't. And I'm normally not super sensitive to these kind of things, but I'm not sure how I feel about the like fetishization of Western media, and how like that was like, oh, this poor, what's the country, fake country?
Sokovia.
This poor Eastern European country has to watch our great American television because that's the only thing going for them besides war. Like, I don't know. Like, it kind of made me a little uncomfortable. Like, and I mean, not that, I mean, not that, I mean, Marvel's close with the Department of Justice. And I mean, it's always been a very American gung-ho type of thing. But nevertheless, that was one thing that I thought I'd see more people talking about. But maybe it was just because everyone expected it all along.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Meh, I'm out.
Yeah. I thought it was some of it was cool. I liked the shenanigans answer, but again, kind of like a cop out of like everything works out in the end. I also didn't love the fact that the dad walks in just with a briefcase full of DVDs of like TV seasons. I'm like, that just visually looked weird. Like he went to Best Buy and grabbed a bunch.
So what I saw people saying is that that was his job, was selling them.
Okay.
He was like I'm guessing bootlegger, maybe? I don't know.
Oh yeah, he does say I'll sell them all tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a
weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's yeah.
So he's a criminal, in addition to being in a war-torn country, and all he can watch is Malcolm in the Middle. Okay, the next flashback is the Hydra Experiment.
Yeah. So this one, and you mentioned plot holes. Does this actually change any of her backstory as we've heard it before, or does it just give us more information?
No, we just get to see her interacting with the Mind Stone.
Okay, I mean, I'm in on it. I liked it. I don't think I liked the format of how the whole episode was Agatha walking her through flashbacks.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's cool getting to see her with the stone. I do like her as a character. I think she's more interesting if she's always had powers than she was just given them.
Mm-hmm.
So I do kind of like that little bit of retcon there. So I'll say I'm in on this one. Yeah.
I'm out on this one specifically because, for one thing, she gets her powers. She's in a holding cell. They show her blinking the TV back, as she will later do in Westview. The recording of her interacting with the stone, the Hydra agents are trying to watch it, and it just cuts. And I'm like, okay. And then she's also watching more sitcom. She's watching the Brady Bunch in the Sokovian holding cell, and I'm like, okay, too much.
Brian, that's all they have to do.
It's too much.
I mean, and I think, to go back to what I said earlier, I think there's a very relatable point, an argument for, in 2021, we're going to have a show about a character who can only deal with grief through television. That is $1 million sitcom idea.
Yeah.
That is not what they did with this show.
No, it is not.
So.
Okay, next flashback, the Avengers Compound. Again, more sitcoms. I'm in on this one. I'm in on this one specifically because I think this is where I think their thesis came to fruition, because Vision, they're watching Malcolm in the Middle. Bryan Cranston gets pummeled by, the pergola that he's building. And Vision says, is it funny because he suffered a grievous injury? And Wanda says he's not really hurt. And Vision says, well, how do you know? And she says, it's not that kind of show. Which I think is their whole thing. It's like, this is the point that Wanda's trying to make with the whole sit. And like, I thought it was nice. Then Vision says the line that everybody is upset with. But I did like this flashback. I like going back to the Avengers Compound and seeing Vision walk through the walls again, just like he did in Civil War. I thought that was a nice little beat by Wanda. And I just thought, again, I really liked this scene as a scene.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, you know, the question. So I'm in on it as well, but I think the question, the overarching question I have is, would this scene have been just as powerful in a movie that wasn't based on just Scarlet Witch and Vision? Does this scene bring anything if we put it into I mean, it's post Age of Ultron, so where the heck would we have to put it?
You have to put it in Civil War.
Yeah. And I don't know the answer to that, but that's, if I was a Disney executive, that's the question I'd be asking. Is this scene just as effective if you put it in Civil War, or is it effective enough to build a whole series around?
I think it is effective if you put it in Civil War. I don't think it's effective enough to build an entire series around, which I think is the issue. I think it's a good scene, and I think it encapsulates itself as the point Wanda's making, because Wanda could have easily just said, like, Vision could have said, like, oh, why are you watching this show? And she said, I used to watch them all the time with my brother back in Sokovia. It was the only thing we had. And then they literally just could have had the scene play out. And the entire whole of WandaVision, the show, could have been that scene in Civil War, and you like get it. So I like that scene. But next up, okay, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, and I think that's the thing, is this scene is like you said, this is their thesis statement. This is what they wanted the show to be about.
Yeah.
And then they built a shitty puzzle box sitcom around it.
For no reason. Like, truly. Yeah. Okay, next up, and we're going to get to my first WTF moment. It is Wanda entering Sword, meeting with Hayward, seeing the dismantled Vision. Now, there is a great moment where Wanda goes down there and touches him and says, I can't feel you, which is a wonderful callback to the line in Infinity War where she says, he says, I just feel you. And then he says it as she's killing him. I just feel you. And then she says, I can't feel you here. Great moment. Here's my WTF moment. In an earlier episode, Hayward says that Wanda broke into Sword and stole the Vision's body. That is not what happens in this flashback. Wanda just leaves.
So he set that whole thing up. So this is the interpretation that I think most people are going with, is that he said, like, that's what he said, because that's what he wanted everyone else around him to believe, but he set that whole thing up to try to get Wanda to bring Vision back.
Really, that's horrible.
Yeah, I do not disagree with you at all, but you are right, it is. And I think we even see some security footage of her breaking in. So that's what it was, is he was manipulating Wanda because he thought Wanda could bring Vision back online.
Yeah, I mean, he says, is that all? She says, I want to bury him. And he says, is that all you want to do with him?
You want to do? Aren't you sure you want to hit his on button? Yeah. So it's him being the villain again. This show doesn't need to be the villain.
But then the beginning of the show, when he sends Rambo to deal with the missing persons thing, it's like he would have to know that the missing persons thing has to deal with Wanda and her hex. If we get a Hayward reveal in the final episode, like he's someone, I'm really going to lose my shit, because I think, like, it doesn't, to your point that you keep making, if you think about it too long, it doesn't make any sense, because then he would have to know a lot of things that we didn't and that other people don't. He would have to know a lot more than a lot of people.
It's still the same as, why did Agatha try to throw Vision off of her scent that she was really a witch while wearing a fucking witch hat? Like,
yeah.
You can't point and wink at cameras that aren't there and cameras that are there that aren't there that are there, but only there for some people. Like, no.
Yep. I mean, I'm not going to belabor last week's tirade, but you're 100% right.
Yeah. No, and
Um,
yeah.
it drives me nuts.
You were more right than I was. I was young and naive. What can I say?
Okay, next up, Wanda's drive through Westview, getting to a foundation of a house in which Vision had purchased for her, and with a sign that says "To grow old in" from V. Wanda gets there, screams, explodes out, and creates the hex.
So again, I like the emotional resonance of, it's heartbreaking that he bought a house for them. I think I don't know. I don't remember if I was reading this somewhere, but we never really got. Oh yeah, I was reading it. People were talking about how we never really got development of them as a couple,
Right.
and the series just expected us to care about them. But now I think, and I mean, one of them's an android, so that also complicates things. But yeah, like that's sweet. Like he bought them a house for Odin together. I really, really do not like, however, that the hex was accidental.
Right.
Like that, because she knows she was mind controlling people, and like they've kind of
Or
they're
does she?
they're trying to make her a villain and not make her a villain at the same time.
Yeah, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too.
And you can't. She
No.
either created a whole town of mind slaves to prop up her dead husband's body because she was grief stricken, or she didn't.
Yeah. And I thought they were going to go with that because she's driving through and she's looking at people that we know. Yeah. And it's almost like she's like thinking like, oh, that's a funny looking guy. And I honestly thought they were going to go like she was just going to stand there and look out and be like, this would be a perfect, ideal town. But she doesn't. She just screams and the hex happens and everything just gets rewritten and it's kind of lame. Yeah. And then she makes, okay.
Yeah.
She makes Vision. The Vision that's in the hex is created by Wanda. Yeah. Which makes absolutely zero sense given what we've known in the show, because he has interacted with things simultaneously. He's tried to escape by himself. He's tried to fix the pieces together. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Unless I'm missing a big piece of it. We literally see Wanda create the Vision of Westview, and after not taking the Vision's body, so this isn't even fake Vision, which is what we assumed, is that she just took his body and reanimated it somehow, so it was like part of Vision could still be in there. Yeah. Nope, she makes him, and he apparently has thought and feeling, and like I don't know.
Don't think about it. And then the final episode is going to be her and fake Vision fighting white Vision, and then they're all going to hold hands at the end, and I'm going to scream.
You're correct. Okay, two more. Agatha saying a weird makeup job on Agatha at the end there, like real Agatha. She says, "This is chaos magic. You're the Scarlet Witch."
No, so dumb.
I was like, what? I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
So dumb. I mean, okay, so like introducing chaos magic, that's cool. This was like one of those really bad full page panels in a comic book, and sometimes those moments translate really well to television, and 99% of the time they don't. Yep. And this was one of the ones where they don't. It's like,
did not.
Like, why didn't she just look at the camera and be like, "You're the Scarlet Witch, and you're on your own episode
of WandaVision," and then just like the Looney Tunes circle. That's all, folks.
Yeah. Like no, like and I actually it makes me even more mad because to end on that note, after doing so much good characterization of her, undercuts a lot of it. I think.
Right, like, because she's just forcing this persona on someone that we've literally just watched her entire growth get up to this point.
Yeah. And so, but all that growth now means, and it also, and I've seen people talk about this, is there's also like, some kind of underlying thought that like maybe the Scarlet Witch is like is going to have a backstory of her own. So like when she's in the flashback with the Mind Stone, she sees
Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. And then Agatha mentions it. So there's some thought that like Scarlet Witch might be like some prophesized character or something along those lines, like within the Witch Coven or whatever it is that's going to be done. But yeah.
Even though the costume that she sees is a costume that we saw in the Halloween episode, and it is way less impactful when we've already had her in it and her pawn it off as a Sokovian fortune teller outfit. So really head scratching. Last in and out, White Vision.
I'm out.
Okay, here's my comics corner. I only had 2 comics corner things. One is chaos magic, but you already mentioned it. Yeah. It's the kind of magic Wanda uses in the comics. Okay, White Vision in the comics is Vision except without like his humanity. Basically, it's just an android. So I think that's what they're doing here as well. It won't have any of Vision's memories or emotions. It's literally just a killer robot, essentially. Yeah, I'm out. I was like, if I had a list of 100 things I expected in this show, White Vision is definitely not on that list. So I was really like, what are we doing?
I'm telling you, White Vision is going to, fake White Vision is going to fight fake Vision. And then maybe they'll fight Agatha too. I don't know. She'll probably just ride off. She's probably just
it's 100%. Here's my second WTF though, is where is real Vision? When last we saw him though, in the previous episode before Agatha All Along happened, he flies out of the truck with Darcy to go find Wanda, and we have not seen that Vision since.
Oh, you mean where it? Okay, so not real Vision, but
Westview Vision. WandaVision.
Yeah, WandaVision. Yeah, it takes a long time for him to fly there, so he'll show up. Yeah.
Because it's been like 2 days.
But again, this gets back to, we talked about this last week. I think a lot of the underlying problems of the show is, again, you have your 2 main characters not together anymore.
Yep.
And the best moments we have of them are in flashbacks.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, maybe he just doesn't. Maybe him and Darcy just don't show up again. Like, why did they? Yeah, why did
we didn't even get Jimmy Woo in this episode. Like, we introduced all of these characters that we had, and now they're all gone and marginalized completely. And the next episode is, like you said, it's just going to be a superhero battle between the 2 Visions, even though one of them is technically Wanda. And
it'll probably look cool.
Sure. And you're right. Like, Agatha is literally just going to disappear and be like, I'll see you again soon. And then, like,
prettiest.
Yeah, like literally, and be like, well, Doctor Strange is gonna happen, I guess, and that'll be that. And we'll stop Hayward because he's bad, I guess. I'm really trying to. It didn't need to be a puzzle box. If it was just a show about grief, if it was a 6-episode miniseries, like not a season, not like season 1. If they're like, hey, we made a WandaVision miniseries, 6 episodes about grief, not a puzzle box, straightforward, sitcoms, fine. I'm in. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. If I agree with you most of the way, I think if it was me, I don't think we would need 3 episodes of the sitcom nonsense then.
No.
I think those 3 episodes are a like minute teaser at the beginning of the show. And then we literally just spend 6 episodes with Wanda and Vision dealing with grief.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, last question for you tonight. We've talked about this a little bit, but what are your hopes for the ending? Not what we think they're going to do, which is disappointing, but if they could really land this ship, what would your hope be for the finale?
I mean, I said this last week where I still saw, a very small landing platform for them just through Wanda's grief. And I still think that's true. I mean, what? I have to sneeze. And now it's gone. Okay, well, that's cool. And, you know, with what the director and showrunner were talking about, you know, I think they're really going to play up Rambo and her similarities. And
Rambo wasn't in this episode either.
You know, and there's similarities as, you know, women dealing with really traumatic experiences. And, you know, I think they could have a satisfying ending to, you know, this week's episode that I would be okay with. I don't know if there's a way for the show to resolve that'll make me a fan of the whole season. And it's exactly because of what you said. You can't. The problem with a puzzle box is if the puzzle sucks, then the box sucks. And they can't, 7 episodes into a puzzle box series, say, oh, we weren't really doing that. We were really just looking at grief. Like I said, they may, like, I think they could get an amazing performance out of Olsen. I think they could have a really emotional finale that, again, follows this week of the show really, really well. But I don't think they successfully wrap up the whole season in an episode. I don't think they want to or intend to.
No, I think you're right. I think for the most part it's going to be fine. I think like what you said exactly. I think it'll look cool. It'll be Rambo and Darcy and Jimmy all again. Well, it'll be like Jimmy Woo against Hayward, wrapping that up. It'll be Darcy and Rambo and Vision and WandaVision and Wanda versus White Vision and Agatha will dip out and there'll be some kind of conclusion and Wanda will have to kill WandaVision because he won't be able to exist anymore because she's going to have to close the hex. Those are all just guesses, but my hope for the finale, honestly, I don't think they can land the ship in any way that I think would be satisfying for anybody that watched the show the way we did, trying to solve the puzzle box. I think if you just watch the show as like, oh, it's a Marvel thing, I think maybe you will enjoy it and that the ending will be satisfying. If it's if it's like a standalone piece of entertainment, then again, I think it might be satisfying to you. There's literally one way that I could be talked back into this. And it is something that we've talked about multiple times, although I'm going to amend it. And it's as the show ends and there is, you know, a big brouhaha and now magic is out there and all this stuff is out there. I really just need a car pulling up or something like that, or a jet pulling up and someone saying like, oh, we have this expert over here that we think can help make heads or tails of this situation. And it be, I mean, maybe we don't even have to have an actor on it, but just a bald guy in a wheelchair. And just like, I need an X-Men. I need this to mean something to the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. That will, for me, be my thing. Like you and I have said since Jump Street, we've wanted Magneto to close out the show as he does in Avengers Disassembled, to take Wanda away. There's no way that's happening. I think we could still get we can make the Evan Peters thing matter by having some mutant connection. So
I think there's a slim possibility of that, but so here's where I'm standing. I would rather them not do that than have the only way they do that is in a post-credit scene where like a phone rings and like Wanda picks it up and it's like, this is your father, Magneto. And then she hangs the phone up. Like, because that is legitimately, if they do connect it to the Marvel Universe at large, which I don't think they're going to, but if they do, I think it's going to be so bad that I would have rather them not have done it.
What if the show ends and then it clicks off and then we pull back to see that it was all being watched on a TV and then we swing around and it's Deadpool. And he's like, that show sucked. And then we just close.
We need to do like a whole other episode about how they wasted making this a sitcom about sitcoms. Like,
yeah, they didn't do anything with that premise.
Talk about wasting a fantastic premise. No, that's ultimately what I think is. I think it's gonna be something so small. Like, it's gonna be like Nick Fury being like, I want to talk to you about the X-Men initiative. Like, it's gonna be something. It's gonna be so small that it's gonna make me madder that they even bothered doing it. Like, don't even do that nonsense if you're gonna do it like that.
Agreed. Just take it out completely.
Or it's just they add in like a title card that's like, we're sorry, we didn't think you were gonna want the X-Men. We'll bring them back in the next movie. Like,
I can't. Well, we're 2 days away from the finale of WandaVision. Any final thoughts on this episode or your thoughts for the last episode?
If it goes as I think it's going to go, Marvel may have to convince me to watch any more of their TV shows. Because, as I've mentioned, and I know this is not popular with you, Brian, I don't give a shit about Falcon and Winter Soldier, falconing and Winter Soldiering. Loki's cool. I don't, like, the show's going to be Tom Hiddleston just doing Tom Hiddleston stuff, and, like, that'll be fine, but, like, as a not hardcore Marvel fan, and now every single cool idea they're gonna have for a show, I'm gonna be like, well, are they gonna Wanda that up, or like, is it gonna, like? So I don't know. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I don't think Luke Skywalker is gonna come in at the end of WandaVision and redeem us all.
No, I don't think Luke. I don't think they needed to do that, but they tried to do that.
Right.
And that's the thing. And even, with what you were saying earlier, with like the director being like, "Oh, well, we didn't think they were gonna look." Well, that's bullshit. Like, you knew what you were doing.
Yes.
You were leading people. You were leading people on to take advantage of the weekly discourse of television. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is not. Well, we didn't think fans were gonna. We didn't think the show was gonna be this popular. We didn't think fans were gonna dig into it that much. I'm not buying that at all, because literally from episode 1, from the previews, they were hyping up this whole something weird's going on with Wanda. Like, you can't. TV shows. Emily Vanderwolf, who's one of my favorite, TV critics, talks about how, like, TV shows teach you how to watch them over, like, the course of a season or a couple seasons. You begin to understand the language of that specific show. And WandaVision from the very beginning was teaching us to not trust what was happening, that something weird was going on, and that we should analyze and pay attention.
Yep.
And you can't have that be the language of the show and then blame us for watching it that way.
No. And then you can't, and again, I'm going to hit back on my previous point. You can't have Agatha along rewrite what we were watching and say, not only could you not figure this out, but we're just making up rules as we go along, and the lines don't match. You just can't handle it that way. So it doesn't reward me for watching this at all.
No. But what if though, Brian, what if the kids are fake and she goes crazy and then Ian McKellen comes and asks for his daughter? Like,
oh man, I said the only way I'm going to say this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in life is that if Magneto shows up and says, "Give me back my daughter," or something.
So I do want to bring up one other point. Is that, I'm also very disappointed that I don't think we're going to ultimately get Dark Wanda. I think that is another thing that this whole show has flirted with since the beginning of Wanda Breaking Bad. And unfortunately, I think that Marvel is too afraid to have one of their even tertiary Avengers end up being a bad guy.
Yep.
which is a discredit to the character, the actress, and this whole show.
And the MCU.
Yeah.
To not have faith in one of their characters to have her turn.
Yeah.
And be redeemed.
And I mean, because I think like she's gonna. I mean, obviously we know she's showing up in Mountains of Madness, whatever it is, Mumbo's Magical Multiverse. But
both of those are better titles.
but it's not gonna be interesting.
No.
Even that's just gonna be her and Doctor Strange buddy adventuring along to do Marvel things and save the and there were, you know, I was talking to someone today actually. I was saying like how cool would it have been if this episode shifted genres and was like a horror, you know, it was like a horror TV show. And my roommate kept mentioning, she was like, oh, like before this episode, she's like, we're gonna see a really cool intro credit scene from Agatha's point of view now. And I was like, oh, like that would be dope. And like there's unfulfilled expectations, unfulfilled promise, all over the place.
All over the place. Well, I'm glad that I have broken you down and got you, or at least that WandaVision has broken you down and gotten to my level of feeling underwhelmed. To be the nicest, but we will give the show the benefit of the doubt and give it one last swing at the plate. But
from the way things are looking, probably a series and probably a season and a series finale.
Yeah, definitely.
So
agreed. But that'll do it for us tonight. Willie, thank you. We will be back possibly with the full council, possibly just you and I drinking heavily, depending on the outcome of this. But thank you again for joining me on this ride into Westview. And as always, take what you can.
And give nothing back.
Thanks, Willie.
Ciao.